Guitar intervals, C major, A minor, and related modes. This time looking at the F Lydian mode, focusing on centering around measuring from the F note located on the 5th string down from the top of the guitar, fret number 6, and this is part number 3. One of our major objectives is to orientate all of our resources in the same direction, making them as easy on the eyes as possible from the perspective of the player of the guitar, who is of course located behind the guitar. Therefore, for example, my guitar is going to look like I'm playing left-handed, but no, we just flipped it around to mirror your perspective from behind your guitar as though you were playing your guitar into a mirror. Similarly, our Excel worksheet representing the fretboard will have this as the low or heavy E string, one closest to the ceiling, top to bottom, left to right, orientated as though we just took our guitar, imprinting the strings on the screen. We're going to be continuing on with our interval practice, focusing around measuring from this F note located on the 6th fret of the guitar and the B string. And we're going to be basically working within the Lydian mode. Let me give a quick recap as to why we're building the Lydian mode. I'll try to make it a little bit faster this time since we've seen the recap in the prior presentations in part 1 and part 2. But I want to get an idea of it, and remember, the point here is that we want to try to cram in as much kind of theory stuff as possible that will be as applicable as possible, so that when I'm doing whatever I want to do for fun, whether that be playing with somebody else or just basically like kind of freestyling or whatnot, I have more flexibility. I know a little bit more about what I'm doing, so therefore I can move around a bit more. That's going to be the idea. Theory really helps to do that. So if I scroll up to the top, remember that we basically always are often going back to the major scale as our point of reference. And that's going to be like our Rosetta Stone, our key. But I want to use that to be able to move away from the major scale so that I can then do other things in other scales, such as the related modes, for example, or at least the most common related mode, which is the minor scale, that is the most common. But we can also do any of these other modes, and if we learn these modes, then we can learn how to build more complex chords while playing in the major or minor scale. And we can easily convert those other scales, which use the same note and therefore are the same shape, to related scales, like related major and minor scales. For example, the D Dorian can easily then be converted to the D minor. The E Phrygian can easily be converted to the E minor. The F Lydian can easily be converted to the F major. The G Mixolydian can be easily converted into a G major, and so on and so forth. So we're always kind of working on this particular shape, which is basically the C major scale, because it has no sharps and flats, therefore it's a little bit easier to work with. It's just the standard scale that most people kind of learn. But as we do that, we're looking at all the notes that are included in all of these other scales, and the guitar, even more so than the piano, is similar to a spreadsheet in that it's movable. So the ways that we can learn this is that we can learn it by shape. I can just learn that this shape, it has all the notes in the C major scale. That's great. I can also kind of combine that to my shape understanding in the caged system, which generally learns open position shapes, like a normal C chord, an E chord, an E minor chord, and so on, and then move those shapes up, those basically basic chord shapes up the guitar, and then I can add to the 3-note shapes the added 2 notes to get a pentatonic or 5-note scale, and the added 2 more notes to get to a 7-note scale. So that's one way that I can kind of name these shapes as I try to learn them up and down the fretboard. That's great, but it often leads us not knowing so much relative positions. I don't really need to learn the notes so much. I would like to memorize all the notes on the guitar. That would be great. But what I really want to be able to do is look at the relative positions and patterns within the guitar, because those relative positions will help me know, no matter what scale I'm in, how to build a chord from it. So that means there's a couple ways that we can do that. We can learn it by formula, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's the formula we usually learn from the major scale. or we can learn it from intervals, meaning we measure around a particular note. And that's what we're working on here is the intervals. Intervals in particular make it a lot easier to basically build chords, because instead of just building, like if I want to build a chord, I could build a chord by just basically picking 3 notes that fit in this shape. And I could just pick them randomly, right? I could just say, I'm going to just do that. And that's cool. You've built something that fits in the scale, so it's going to sound okay in theory, right? So you could do that. You could just noodle around and pick 3 notes or pick more than 3 notes as long as they're all in the scale shape, and it should be within the key and therefore sound good. But you're not going to know exactly what you're playing that way because you don't really know what is actually being played in terms of chords, right? So if I actually want to build a song and think about what can I play in place of a normal C, if I had a normal C chord over here, what could I play in place of that? Well, it would be better if I could kind of think about it in terms of an interval structure around that C note, and then maybe I can add a 7th to it, or you can start to add a 9th to it or something like that. So what I'm not trying to learn here, I'm not trying to particularly learn all of the notes that are in the C major scale and a C major chord and a D chord. The notes in particular, that'd be cool if you can learn that, but I'd really want to learn the intervals. And I want to learn the intervals not only in terms of being able to repeat the intervals in my mind, but be able to see the interval shapes, because that allows me to move up and down. Then I don't have to play in just this key of C major, because I can move the entire position up the guitar. And even though I don't know, for example, if I was playing in D major, if I wanted a D major chord, I might not know the notes that are in a D major chord, but I know the shapes and the intervals, and therefore I can reconstruct it based on the shapes and the intervals as long as I can find a D note on the guitar, right? And so that's going to be that's the general idea that we want to be thinking. So we're going to really emphasize kind of this shape, and as we do that, we will practice basically all of the intervals. And I want to practice all of the intervals from each shape, not just on the top 2 strings going down, but also on the bottom strings going up, because that helps us to practice inverse intervals, which is something people don't get accustomed to. And it also practices this shift in the fault line, remembering that this shift, the fact that there's a difference in tuning between these 2 strings, leads a lot of people to just simply give up on learning the shapes. They just learn the big shapes, like the full, like the bar chord shapes. But we start to not want to learn the interval shapes because they're not consistent across the entire guitar. But that's not, obviously that's not a good thing. We'd like to learn the shapes. All you have to do is remember that if you cross the fault line down here, the shape shifts. And once you get that, then you can kind of get the shapes. So that's basically what we're working on. So if I look at my Rosetta Stone of the C major, you'll recall that the intervals are going to be a 0 note away perfect first, a 2 note away major second, a 4 note away major third, a 5 note away perfect fourth, a 7 note away perfect fifth, 9 note away major sixth, 11 note away major 7. We're now going to be looking at the Lydian, remembering that as I look at the Lydian, I want to know that even if I don't play a lot of songs in Lydian. Why? Because even if I'm playing in the C major or any of these modes, I'm gonna hit, like if I'm playing in any of these modes and I play off of these notes, like a D Dorian, an E Phrygian, an F Lydian, a G Mixolydian, an A minor or Aeolian, then I'm gonna have an F in it. And when I get to that F, I want to know what I'm going to construct from a chord construction. In other words, do I build a major or minor chord from it? And beyond that, what would be the 7, 9, and 11, and 13 that would still fit in the key? That's what I want. That's what I want to know. And the only way I really could know that is to say, okay, that F has the related modal structure. I'm building a modal chord of not an F major. I'm building an F. If I was to build an F major, then I would go, like I would be still in the same thing for the 1, 3, 5, but the 7, 9, 11, and 13 might not be the same, or it wouldn't be in the same key. I could do that, but it wouldn't be in the same key. I'd be doing something different, I'd be switching keys, right, when I go to this chord. But if I play the Lydian, if I name that as a Lydian chord, then all of the intervals will be in the same key as whatever I'm playing in, which could be C major or A minor, most likely. So when I get to that F, I'm playing basically a Lydian chord. It's not just that I have to play in a Lydian mode, right? It's a Lydian chord. Why don't people do that? Because really when we build a chord, we usually only think about the 1, 3, 5, 3-note chords. But you could go beyond that, and that's when it gets messy, when I add the 7, 9, and 11, and a 13. So if I went to the 1, 3, 5, that would be the same 1, 3, 5, whether we had a Lydian chord, a Lydian scale, or a major scale, an Ionian scale, because it's the same 1, 3, 5, but it's not the same 7, 9, 11, and 13. So that's why if you want to build more complex chords, you still need to know that you would like to label these not just simply as relative positions, helping me determine if I have a major or minor chord, but rather I'm going to label each of these by the mode, giving me the ability to know all of the intervals, building more complex chords, even if I'm not playing in that particular scale. How do we do that? Well, I'm going to label all of the modes using an absolute numbering system that's going to be related to the major scale. That means the Lydian is the 4th. It's going to be the 4th position related to the major scale. So I'm going to give it an absolute numbering position of a 4. So when I go down to Lydian, if I go down to Lydian, what happened is we made the F the 1st, relative position 1. So now it's relative position 1, but I'm still going to call it the 4th mode as I compare it to my Rosetta Stone, which is the major scale. And by being able to do that, that automatically tells me that it must be a major mode. I must be able to build a major scale from it, because the 1, 4, 5 of the majors is where I build the major scale. And then every other position, I would like to be able to name it with the absolute numbering system related to the major scale, because that allows me to know whether I build a major or minor chord. So if I go to the 2 of the Lydian, then what is that? Well, the Lydian is basically starting on the 5th related to the major scale. So the 2 of the Lydian, the 2nd position of the Lydian, is what I would call mode number 5, or the modal chord number 5, which is the Mixolydian mode. See, if I know that, then I know that the Mixolydian mode has a major chord construction, and I know that the 7th, it has a flat 7th in it. The 3rd of the Lydian is going to be equivalent to what I would call the modal chord that I would construct of mode number 6, which is the Aeolian. How could I get there easily? I can easily get there by saying, well, I'm on the Lydian. The Lydian was mode number 4, and then if I go up 3, it's going to be 4, 5, right? So now I'm going to go up two more notes. So I can take the relative position, which is the 3rd related to the Lydian, minus 1 gives me 2, plus the mode that I started on, which was mode number 4. 4 plus 2, it gives me 6. Mode number 6 is Aeolian. Now, I know that's a lot of thinking kind of to go through it, but again, if once you start to play with that, your mind will start to pick that up easily, which allows you to move away from the shortcut conventions, which gets you stuck in a major scale. You're stuck in a major scale or a minor scale because we've just simply remembered what the relative positions are to make a major chord and minor chord in those scales. Therefore, I can't easily go to a Lydian or to a Mixolydian because I don't know the chord constructions, even if I know the actual notes in the chord, because the notes are the same, right? So anyway, that's the general idea. All right, so now we're on the 7th. I'm sorry, the 5th. So we're working on the 5th. Before we do that, let me try to do a quick joke. I'll try to run through them I've kind of built up on my jokes again, so I have to go through them. Otherwise, they'll get built up here. I got to crank them out here. So here we go. Practice joke time before we get into it. You know, people keep trying to slow me down with lies, threats, and theft, for crying out loud. It's crazy. But I don't care. I just keep going, man. I just keep cranking crap out. That's what I do. I just keep cranking crap out, man. And people ask, well, how do I crank crap out? How do I crank crap out? I'm not really sure. Now that I think about it, all I know is that I just eat stuff, and then my body cranks crap out. You know, I don't know how it works. Whatever. Who cares how it works? The fact is that I don't care. I don't care how it does it. It doesn't matter. The point is, I crank crap out, man. I crank crap out. My neighbors think they can stop me from cranking crap out by stealing my food from my porch. But no, it's not going to stop me from cranking crap out. I don't care what they do. Nobody's going to stop me from cranking crap out, man. Here we go. Let's crank some crap out here. I'm a crap crank. We're getting this done. All right, so we're on the fifth here. It's going to be a 7-note away perfect fifth, noting that that's the same as the major scale. It's also the same as the minor, which is what we would typically expect from the perfects. So you will recall that the Lydian has everything the same as the major in terms of the intervals, except for the fourth, which has a 6-note away, which should be called an augmented fourth. My worksheet is pulling in the diminished fifth because of the way the worksheet's set up, so it's still 6 notes away. We talked about that last time, but that's the one interval that's different, which should be an augmented fourth, 6 notes away. So the fifth, we're back to basically the same here as on the major scale. We really want to know the fifth. We get a lot of practice with the fifth because the fifth is something that I can add basically to any note within any mode as long as it's in there, except when I get to the Locrian, right? On this one, this B has a minor, a flat fifth. So again, notice what we're kind of doing here is that's going to be the idea. So we're going to be going into that fifth. So if I look at it from a chord construction, we have the 1, 3, 5 because it's the odd number. It's going to be the same naming construction when we look at it from a chordal construction as well. So let's measure it out up here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 7-note away. 7 notes away would be too far away up this way. So I'm going to go behind it and we're going to go this way. So remember, if I was to wrap this string around in a circle, the 12 notes, then we can go one way around the circle or the other way around the circle. If I was going to go this way around the circle, it would be 7 steps. Therefore, if I go the other way around the circle, it's got to be 12 minus 7, which would be 5. So 5 notes back. So if I count it out this way from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it would be here. So back to here. So it'd be from this C, which is kind of twangy because I need to fix my guitar, but they're there. And if I went from this F, so if I went from this C to this F, measuring from the C, that would be a 5-note away, which would be a perfect fourth. But if I measure from the F back to the C, the inverse, that's going to be then the 7-note away perfect fifth. Okay, let's go above it now. So if I go above it, I'm looking for this one. So when I go above it, I have to look for the inverse distance. So if I'm talking about a 7-note away perfect fifth, 12 minus 7 is 5. So I'm looking for a distance of 5, remembering that we're crossing the fault line. This is the tectonic plate that moved to the right. So when I go up, I can't just simply go up to 5 here, but rather I have to go diagonally back. I'm not going to go up to 4 because I don't count in 4s. So I go diagonally back to get to 5-note distance. So there it is right there. So this is the only time, so if we would cross the fault line. So if I go from right there, 5, distance of 5, top to bottom, C, whoops, that's the wrong one, from here to there. So top to bottom, measuring from the C, would then be a 5-note away perfect fourth. But if I measure from the bottom, F, measuring from the F to C, that would be then a 7-note away perfect fifth. That means if I go up 1 string and cross the fault line, the 7-note away perfect fifth will be 1 fret back. But that's the only time I would cross the fault line. I wouldn't cross the fault line if I were here. It would be right above it. And if I was on the top continent, up top here, it would just be right above it. So the general rule is, if I go up 1 string, the 7-note away perfect fifth will be on the same fret, unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, which is the string I happen to be on, in which case, if I go up one string and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1 fret back, baby. Let's go up 2 frets, or 2 strings. 2 strings up, right there, boom. Shaka-laka. Okay, so let's go up 2 strings. So I'm looking for the 7 note away perfect fifth. Therefore, I have to look for the inverse distance because I'm going above it. 12 minus 7 is 5. So if I'm up here, then I'm going to go -5 going this way, and then 10. So that's going to be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All right, so if I'm right here, we're going to say from here, that's going to be -5, and then 10, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Boom, boom. So if I went from top to bottom, wait a sec. Hold on. It's going to be -5, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So there it is. Right. So if I went from top to bottom, from that C to F, that would be a 5 note away perfect fourth. From bottom to top would be then a 7 note away perfect fifth. Okay. So if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. However, I wouldn't cross the fault line if I started above the fault line on either this G or the D string. So if I was on one of these strings, like this F right here, for example, and I went up 2 strings, it would be out here. So the general rule would be, if I go up 2 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will normally be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on either the B or the E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 4 frets forward. All right, let's go up another string. So we'll go up to here. And so now we're going to say, okay, I go up 3 strings. So I'm looking for a 7 note away perfect fifth. The inverse distance, because I'm going above it, is 12 minus 7, or 5. So a distance of 5. I'm going to go -5 this way. 5, 10, 15. So there's only 12 notes in the musical alphabet. So 15 minus 12 is -3, -3, 4, 5. Let's count it out this way. So I'm going to say -5, -10, -15. Only 12 notes in the musical alphabet. So 15 minus 12 is -3, 4, 5. So if I went from top to bottom, this C to F, that would be a 4 note away perfect fifth. If I go from bottom to top, therefore, the inverse is a 7 note away. I'm sorry, if I go from top to bottom, that would be a 5 note away perfect fourth. If I went from bottom to top, it would be a 7 note away perfect fifth. So if I go up 3 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3 frets back. If I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, I wouldn't cross the fault line if I started above the fault line, which would be on this G string. So if I was on this F and I went up 3 strings, it would be here. So the general rule would be, if I go up 3 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen 2 out of 3 possible times, in which case, if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 3 frets back. All right, let's go up to the top one. The top one here. All right, now if I'm on the top string and I'm measuring from the second to bottom string, I might say, well, it would be easier for me to go below it and then match it to the top one because the notes are the same on the top and bottom strings. So I could go below it if it's a 7 note away perfect fifth. When I go underneath it, I don't have to take the inverse distance. That makes it easier, 7 notes. And it's going to be, I don't have to go diagonal. It's right underneath. So that's 5, 6, 7. There's the C there. There's the C up top. But if I count it up top, because we can do that, it would be an inverse distance, 12 minus 7, which would be 5, a 5-note distance, counting -5 this way, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 notes in a musical alphabet is -3, plus another 5 is 8, so -8, 7, 6, 5. Let's count it out this way. So we're going to say this is going to be -5, 10, 15, 15 minus 12 is -3, plus another 5 is 8. 8, 7, 6, 5. So from here to here, so if I go from top to bottom, that's C to F, that would be a 5-note away, which would be a perfect fourth. Bottom to top would therefore be a 7-note away perfect fifth. All right, let's go below it. So if I go below it, we already checked it out briefly, but therefore if I go below it, I don't have to take the inverse distance. 7-note away perfect fifth then is 7 notes away. So I'm just going to say 5 is directly below it, 6, 7, boom. So, oh, by the way, that top one, we always cross the fault line. So if I go up 4 strings, I will always cross the fault line, and therefore, if I go up 4 strings, I will cross the fault line, and the 7-note away perfect fifth will be 2 frets forward. If I go down here, from here, that's going to be 5 down here, 6, 7. So that top to bottom, 7-note away perfect fifth, which means if I measure from the C, bottom to top, that would be a 5-note away perfect fourth. And so that means that if I go down 1 string, the 7-note away perfect fifth will be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string. So if I was on the G string, like here, for example, then it would be out here. So the rule is, if I go down 1 string, the 7-note away perfect fifth will be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string, in which case if I go down 1 string and cross the fault line, the 7-note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3 frets forward. All right, so now we're going to go to the next one. We'll try to crank these out because I'm going to try to get to the last 2 here. So, but before we do, let's try another joke because I got more jokes. I've been practicing my raw joke. These are just rough drafts, people. So, but I have to do my joke practice. So here we go. You know, I hear they're doing a new Harry Potter movie, possibly casting Snape looking slightly different than described in the books. You know, I saw one article complaining that the actor was not appropriate for the role because he was too good looking. Snape being described as ugly in the books. So they'll have to uglify the actor to make it work. And even though that's not the first thing that jumped out at me, like when I was thinking of it, but I do think they have a good point here. I mean, why is it that some character types require like real life accuracy and others do not? From like you know what I mean? Like, for example, you can no longer have like a straight person play like a gay or lesbian person in acting in a role for some, but until recently it was okay to replace dwarfs with like full grown people instead of people with like dwarfism, or just replace them with AI. It was okay to so you just get rid of the dwarfs, and it's okay to put full grown people, but then they kind of corrected it and they're like, but they'll put AI in it. Although apparently they did totally fix the dwarf discrimination problem by requiring real life dwarf actors to play the voice of the AI, of their AI counterparts, which seems kind of odd. Why not just put the dwarfs in the movie? How is it that you animated the dwarfs and then you couldn't have like a non-dwarf person do the voice of the dwarf when you can't see the person anyway? So why would it matter if it's not their voice that is dwarf-ish, it's the height. It's a physical thing, not their voice. If their physicalness isn't on the camera, then you would think it would, like, the voice isn't different, right? What? Anyways, there's a huge gap in our racial, sex, and disability quotas, which has been overlooked for decades. And that is that there's no category for ugly people. Why isn't there a cat? Those ugly people have problems too, man. All right? Hollywood takes a character clearly described as ugly, and instead of hiring a legitimately ugly person, there's a ton of legitimately ugly people out there that would be happy to act, okay? And instead of doing, they hire good-looking actors, and then they uglify them. They uglify good-looking actors. For shame. For shame, Hollywood. That actor that became uglified is an imposter. What does he think he's doing up there, pretending to be something he's not? For crying out loud. These people, now that we've identified the problem, we need to take steps to fix this, people. This is how we do it. We've seen the playbook before. We just have to implement what we know here. Step number 1, make ugliness a qualifying disease so we can properly put people into a little box, making it their entire identity so that we can then encourage people to aspire to be ugly so that then we can put them in the little box and call them, that's who they are. They're the ugly person. And then step number 2, we reinterpret the current affirmative action law to encapsulate the newly minted category of ugly people. So somehow being ugly is like equivalent to other things that are under the affirmative act. You know how it works, right? We just expand the category. We just mint out a new thing, and then we put it in under the existing law that was made for something totally different, and then step number 3, we get the unions to stuff ridiculous language into the contracts for actors, which actually make them actually contrary to the affirmative action laws that are on the books, unless you reinterpret all the language of the laws in such a way that's ridiculous, so that basically now you've got it into the contracts, so now you have to argue for the contracts, which don't make any sense according to the current law because they're already in the contract. And then step 4, we shame any actor who has ever unbeautified themselves to play a role, equating that kind of action to doing that blackface stuff that people did, I don't know, in the 50s or something. Back in the 50s, there was something with blackface or something. So it's the same thing. If people uglify themselves, we make it like the same thing, and then we shame people that have ever uglified themselves just to play a role. And then step 5, we make up a new name to call fans who will inevitably call this whole process stupid, because you know how those fans are, stupid fans. We should call them something like boil-faced bigots or something, or uglophobes, stupid uglophobes out there trying to stop the progress of ugly actors. That's what we've seen the playbook. We know it works, people. Let's start to act. We need the activists out here. Get those activists out here so we can get it done. All right, let's move on to the next one. We're going on to the 6-note away major, or 9-note away major 6. All right, so this interval is the same on the major scale as it is here with the Lydian. This 6 represents the 6th position relative to the 1st position in Lydian. This 9 represents the actual distance in our unit of measure half steps. Remembering that when we look at the interval of the 6th, then when we do a chord construction, we can't use the even number. We have to convert it into an odd number. We have the 1, 3, 5, and then 7. That's the last of our positions. So then we go back to the 2, which is equivalent to the 9. The 4 would be equivalent to the 11. And then the 6 is going to be equivalent to the 13. So we're looking at a 9-note away major 6, which we can also call a 9-note away major 13 from a chord construction standpoint. All right, so let's do this. So we're going 9 notes away. So if I go in front of it, that's going to be too far this way. So if I wrap this string in a circle, it would be 12 minus 9 to get the inverse distance, which would be a distance of 9, 10, 11, 12, 3. So I'm going to go behind it, 3 notes behind it. So that means that the inverse of a 9-note away major 6 would be a 3-note away minor 3rd, noting that the inverse distance of a major is a minor, the inverse of a minor, a major. So if I'm here, I go 3 notes back. We go to this D, so 1, 2, 3, boom. So if I went from the D to the F, measuring from the D, it would be a 3-note away minor third, and therefore, maybe my pinky would be better. If I go from the F to the D, that must be a 9-note away major sixth then. All right, let's go above it. So if we go above it, we're looking for the D up top. So I have to go to the inverse distance. So a 9-note away major sixth, which would be a 9-note away major 13, has an inverse distance of 12 minus 9, which is going to be 3. So if I go up, I have to go this way across the fault line to get to a 5 because this tectonic plate shifted to the right. Therefore, I'm going to call this -5, -4, -3. So let's count it up. We're going to go from here, -5, and then -5, 4, and then 3. So boom, boom. So top to bottom would be a 3-note away minor third, and therefore from bottom to top would be a 9-note away major 6. Okay, so that means that if I go up one string and cross the fault line, the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, will be 1 fret forward, but normally I wouldn't cross the fault line. So for example, if I was down on the bottom string, if I was here on this F, then it would be right here, and if I was on like this F, then it would be right here. That shape should most likely look most familiar from the perspective of the D to the F, which would be the minor third distance, which looks like a major third distance here because of the fault line. And then we're looking at the inverse, which of course would be the 9-note away major 6. So that means that if I go up one string, the 9-note away major 6 will usually be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, which happens to be the one I'm on, in which case if I go up one string and cross the fault line, the 9-note away major 6, which we can also call the 9-note away major 13, will be 1 fret forward. All right, let's go up 2 frets. Try to crank this out a little bit faster, crank this crap out a little bit faster here. But I can't, I don't have any food. I need food. That's okay. We're gonna crank crap out anyways. Gonna go up 2 strings. Let's go up here to the a D. So this was the one that's right in the middle. So we probably want to go forward here, and then it has a unilateral distance or equilateral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, then we're gonna have 6 frets forward and backwards. This is an equal distance either way. Most likely we're probably not going to use this interval a lot because it's a stretch, but this is the furthest distance away that you can basically get. So if I was to count this out, I'm looking for a 9-note away major 6, so 12 minus 9 is going to be 3, so I'm looking for an inverse distance of 3, -5, -10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's count it out this way. We're going to say -5, -10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So here from boom, boom, you can barely reach it even though it's 6 notes away because we're on the high end of the guitar. So if I went from this D to then that F, that would then be a 3-note away minor third. If I go from the bottom to the top, the F to the D, oh, F, that's not right. That then would be a 9-note away major 6. So that means if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 9-note away major 6 will be 6 frets forwards and therefore must also be 6 frets back. But I wouldn't cross the fault line if I started above the fault line on like the G or the D string, for example. So if I was on this, well, I'll leave that there. If I was on this string, then we can look for an F here, and it would be a shorter distance going back now because this fault line shifted the root to the right. So now it's only 5 frets back, which is basically reachable. So that means normally if I go up 2 strings, the 9-note away major 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen if I go on the bottom two strings, the B or the E, in which case, if I go up two strings and cross the fault line, the 9-note away major 6 will be 6 frets back and 6 frets forward. Therefore, going forward in that case might be the way to go, because you're possibly able to reach it more likely that way, because it's higher up on the shorter frets of the guitar. Okay, that's the long one. That's the tough one. Let's go up to the next one. This one more familiar to us. So if we go up 3 strings, so now we're looking for the 6-note away major 6 or 6-note away major 13. Inverse distance is 12 minus 6, which is going to be a distance of 3. We have to count diagonally, so we can get to 5 here, -5, -10, -15. Only 12 notes in the musical alphabet, so 15 minus 12 is -3. So if I was to go from here, -5, -10, -15, 15 minus 12 is 3. So if I went from this D to the F, that would be a 3-note away minor third, and therefore the F to the D would be a 9-note away major 6. Therefore, if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, will be 1 fret back. I wouldn't cross the fault line if I started on the G, which is the only one of the 3 options that I have the opportunity to go up 3 strings. So this is kind of like the oddball, but I'm going to still think of it as the default. So if I was on this F and I went up 3 strings, it would be on the same fret. So the general rule is if I go up 3 strings, the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, will be on the same fret unless I cross the fault line, which would happen 2 out of 3 times possible to go up 3 strings on the bottom B and high E pitched E string, in which case if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, will be 1 fret back. All right, let's go up to the next one. Up to this one, we're going to go up here, okay? So now I'm looking for the 9-note away major 6 or 9-note away major 13. I'm looking for the inverse distance. Now, I might be able to say I'm on the top string. Let's find it on the bottom string. That would be easier, because that way I wouldn't have to look for an inverse distance. Therefore, I can just look for 9 notes away, and I wouldn't have to cross the fault line. I can just count directly below it to get to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if it's a D here, it's going to be a D on the top string. If I counted out on the top string, I would have to take the inverse distance, 12 minus 9, which would be 3. So I'm going to say -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 is -3, plus another 5 is 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So let's count it out this way. So I'm going to say -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 is -3, plus another 5 is -8. -8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Boom, boom. So if I played from this D to the F, that would then be a 3-note away minor third. If I go from the bottom to the top, therefore, that would be a 9-note away, which would be a major 6. Let's go to the one below it, which we saw already. If I go below it, and by the way, that means that if I go up 1, 2, 3, 4 strings, I will always cross the fault line, because I can't go up 4 strings without crossing the fault line, and therefore the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, will always be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. All right, let's go below it. It's going to be right here. So now I'm going to say if I go down 1 string, I don't have to take the inverse distance. So I'm just going to look for 9 notes away instead of 12 minus 9 or 3 notes away. So I'm just going to say 5. I don't have to take a diagonal distance because I'm not crossing the fault line. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if I am here, we're going to say 5 right below it, 6, 7, 8, 9. So top to bottom would be a 9-note away major 6, and therefore, of course, the inverse, bottom to top, would be a 3-note away minor third. Therefore, if I go up 1 string, the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the G string. So if I was on this G string and I went forward, then it would be out to here, which is a little bit longer of a reach because the destination got shifted out to the right due to this fault line shifting to the right. So the general rule, the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, if I go down 1 string, will usually be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string, in which case if I go down one string, the 9-note away major 6, which could also be called the 9-note away major 13, will be 1, 2, 4, 5 frets forward. Okay, let's just keep it rolling. I'm going to try to finish this off. I won't do another joke. I have more jokes, but let's just try. I'm getting a little tired here. Let's see if we can crank this out. Otherwise, I don't know if I'll make it. I'll die. Why? Because I don't have any food. It's hard to crank crap out when you got no food. I have to rest a little bit, but it's not going to stop me. I will still crank stuff out. Just going to keep doing it. I've got top ramen if I want to get hungry. So now we're on the 7th. So we have 11 note away major 7. So we're on this 7 represents the 7th note in the scale, and 11 represents the distance in half steps. So we're on the odd number again. So from a chord construction standpoint, we skip every other one. So we got the 1, 3, 5. That's the normal triad. But the 7, at least, although not in the normal triad, is still in the normal naming convention in that it's still an odd number and therefore represents the last note of the scale. So that's good. It will not be the same, by the way, in terms of the third. The third is the differentiating note between major and minor, meaning you've got all the major modes or the major notes, the Lydian, Mixolydian, Ionian, major scale, have a major third. That's why they make major chords. And then the Aeolian or minor scale, Dorian and Phrygian all have a minor third. Therefore, they make minor chords and minor modes. The 7 over here, you would think then it would be nice if the 7, 9, and 11, and 13 worked the same way, having a uniform interval between major and minor scales, but they don't. That's why learning the modes is useful, right? Because so on the 7, possibly the most important interval other than the 1, 3, 5, at least in Western music, most likely with the like bluesy stuff, it has the same minor 7 for all of the minor modes, Dorian, Phrygian, minor scale, otherwise known as Aeolian. But on the majors, 2 out of 3 has the major 7. So that's the major scale, Ionian, and then the Lydian that we're on. But the Mixolydian has a minor or flat 7. So it's actually, if you look at all of the notes in a scale, you're actually more likely to be able to put in a minor 7, a flat 7, than a major 7, right? Because the major 7 only works on the C major and the Lydian that we're on. The minor 7 actually works on all the minor scales, 3 of them, Aeolian minor scale, the Phrygian, and the Dorian, and it works on the Mixolydian, and I believe even the Locrian has a minor 7. I'm pretty sure. I'm a little shaky on that one, but I'm pretty sure that it has a minor 7. Anyway, yeah. So let's go. So now let's go. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Right. Anyway, so we're looking for an 11 note away major 7 in this case. So I can't go forward. If I wrap this string around in a circle, it would be 11 steps one way around the circle, which means it's only 1 step back, 12 minus 11, because it's a 12-step circle. So it's only 1 step back, therefore. So if I went from this like E to the F, that would be a 1 note away, which would be a minor second. If I go from the F to the E, therefore, that's an 11 note away major 7. Let's go above it then. So if I go above it. Now remember, I always want to point this out when I'm on the majors, is that 7, the 3rd and the 7 are the things that you can smear between a minor and a major and make it sound kind of bluesy. So you can kind of convert then, like if I learn just this shape, the 3 major modes in this shape is the Ionian or major scale, the Mixolydian scale, and the Lydian scale. It's easy to convert the Mixolydian scale in particular to a blues sounding thing because it already has a flat 7, and all you have to do is kind of smear in the minor 3rd. It's fairly easy to convert the Ionian to a bluesy thing because now you have the major 7, which you can kind of smear in a minor 7, right? You add the minor 7, and then you also have the flat third. Similarly with the Lydian, although not as popular, you would think you could do in essence the same thing, right? Because it's a major mode. Meaning, if I want to make it sound bluesy, I can smear in the minor third, and then I could also smear in the minor 7 instead of the major. So the minor. So I always want to then point out where's the minor 7. It's flattened. It's a 10-note away minor 7. So here's the major. Like if I went from here to here, and then the minor. So you can always kind of play that. Now with the Lydian, it's a little wonky because you have that augmented fourth. That's the thing that's kind of weird. That's not usually in like the blues, but you know, it might still work if you play with the augmented fourth, or if you just don't play that, or you can easily convert then this shape that you know that happens to have all the same notes as the C major and the A minor, but make the F the tonic, and then just convert this one interval so that you're now playing in F major. So you can, it's an augmented fourth, so you can flatten the fourth basically, and then all right. Enough of that. Let's keep it going. We're on a time constraint here, people. This ain't time for just, we got to get it done. Get through the thing. I thought we were cranking crap out here. I thought you were cranking crap out and you had to didn't have any energy because people steal your food. That's true. I got to get going. If I'm going to crank this crap out, I got to get it going. Here, so let's say we go above it. So if we go above it, it's 11 note away major 7. So the inverse distance is 12 minus 11, or 1 note away. So I'm going to go 1 note away, and it's and we have to go this way across the fault line. So it's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So it's going to be -5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom, boom. So top to bottom. Whoa. So if I went from top to bottom, that would then be, is that right? Yeah, top to bottom would be a 1 note away minor 2nd. So bottom to top, therefore, would be a 11 note away major 7. Where would the minor 7 be? It would be right behind it. So you can kind of smear that in if you want to try. It's kind of funky. And then where's home? There's home. All right, anyway, let's go up to the next one. Oh, that means, wait a sec. So if I go up 1 string and cross the fault line, the 11 note away major 7 will be 1, 2, 3 frets forward. But that's the only time I would cross the fault line, because if I was like here, then it would be right here. And if I was above on this continent, here to here. So the rule would be, if I go up 1 string, the 11 note away major 7 is usually 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward, unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B string, which is the one I happen to be on, in which case, if I go up 1 string and cross the fault line, the 11 note away major 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. Okay, let's go to the next one now. Now we can go. Now we can move on. Can't move on until you get the job done. I don't care if you're hungry. I don't care if you're hungry. You get the job done if you want to be moving on around here. Okay, we're going to go up 2 strings. Let's go up 2 strings. And we're going to say that we're looking for an 11 note away major 7. So we take 12 minus 7, which is a distance of 1. So we're going to go from here to here. That's going to be -5, -10, and then -10, and then -11, -12, or back to 0. And so then I can say 0 and then -1. Okay, let's count it out this way. So we're going to say this is going to be -5, -10, -10, 11, 12, or 0, -1. So there we have it, top to bottom. Would be a 1 note away minor 7, or a 1 note away minor 2nd. Therefore, bottom to top would be an 11 note away major 7. So therefore, if I go up, and where would the minor be? The minor would be right back behind it. So you can always see this little string of the minor, the major 7, minor 7, major 7, and then back home to the tonic. So that means that if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 11 note away minor 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. But I wouldn't cross the fault line if I was on the G or the D string. So if I was on like this F over here and I went up 2 strings, then I would be going to this E, and the minor would be right behind it. Doot, doot, doot. And so, da-na-na. So we're going to say if I go up 2 strings, the 11 note away major 7 will be 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the B or the bottom E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 11 note away major 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back, 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 baby. Back. All right. Let's go up one more. And we'll go here. So now we're looking for 11 note away major 7. Inverse distance 12 minus 11 is 1. So we're going to go -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12, because there's only 12 notes in a musical alphabet, is -3. -3, 2, 1. Counting it out this way. -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 is -3, 2, 1. So going from here to here, boom, boom, top to bottom would be top to bottom would be then a 1 note away, which would be a minor 2nd, bottom to top. Therefore, would be an 11 note away major 7. The minor would be right behind it. The minor 7 is behind it. So we got boom, boom, boom. We flatten it to get to the minor. So minor 7, major 7, and the root. So that means if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 11 note away major 7 will be 1 fret forward. I wouldn't cross the fault line. Only one place where I wouldn't cross the fault line and could still go up 3 strings, and that's if I started on the G string. So if I was on like this F, for example, and I went up 3 strings, then it would be out here. So the rule is if I go up 3 strings, the 11 note away major 7 will be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which happens 2 out of 3 times. It's possible to go up 3 strings on the bottom strings, the B and the E string, in which case if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 11 note away major 7 will only be 1 fret forward in that case. All right, let's go to the top one. And this is the long distance one, so possibly going this way would be easier. So we're right in the middle here. This is the one we probably don't use that much because it's right in the middle, because that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this way and 6 the other way, the longest distance of a reach. If I was to find it, it might be easier to find it on the bottom, right? Because then I don't have to look for the inverse distance, and the same notes are on this string as on the top string. So if I'm looking for an 11 note away major 7, I could count at the bottom and say a distance of 11 is going to be 5, and then maybe if I go back 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 or octave, and then back 12 or 12. Where is it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 or octave, or 12, and then 12 minus 1 is 11. And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frets back. Okay, that's right. So that means it should also be 6 frets forward this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're right. Interesting position here. Equilateral triangle going up or bottom. Okay, interesting. Okay, so anyway, so if I counted up, it would be negative. I have to take the inverse distance, which is 12 minus 11, which is going to be 12 minus 11 is 1. So I'm going to say -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 is -3, plus another 5 is -8, -8. And then if I go this way, let's go this way, -8, and then -8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's possibly easier to go forward because I can reach it. So I'm going to say -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 is -3, plus another 5 is 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I might be able to reach that. So from top to bottom, E to F would be then a 1 note away major 2nd, bottom to top. Therefore, it would be an 11 note away major 2nd. Top to bottom would be a 1 note away minor 2nd. bottom to top would be an 11 note away major 7. So therefore, if I go up 4 strings, I will always cross the fault line because I can't go up 4 strings without crossing the fault line, and therefore the 11 note away major 7 will always be 6 frets forward or 6 frets back. Let's go down to the one on the bottom, which we already took a look at briefly, which is the same kind of dynamic here, a little out of control. If I go down 1, I don't have to take the inverse distance. 11 note away major 7, it's just going to be 11 notes away. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frets forward, therefore also 6 frets back. Most likely easier to reach forward in that case, and you might be able to get there and still be able to touch both strings if you're higher up on the guitar and or have big hands. So that's going to be -5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So right there, higher up on the guitar, can barely reach it. So top to bottom, 11 note away major 7, and therefore bottom to top would be a 1 note away minor 2nd. So I think that's it. Hopefully I got through all that and didn't say anything wrong or stupid, but I am hallucinating a little bit because I have an empty stomach. But that's okay. I'm still cranking crap out even with my stomach is empty.